You don't want to hear this as a writer, but you need to. Today on the How to Be an Author podcast, we're going to be talking about something that you probably find really painful, really annoying, but you know in the back of your mind that it is necessary. And I am here to make it so much easier for you, so much less painful, help you avoid some of the mistakes that I made along the way, that other writers have made along the way. We are talking about your author platform. Because there's one thing you need to realize if you want to be a successful writer, at least a commercially successful writer. What does that mean? That means selling books, right? And if you can't have a writer platform or an author platform, selling books is pretty much a pipe dream. Even those of you who are saying, wait, I'm going to stop listening right now because I'm going to publish conventionally. That's what I'm going to do. And then everyone's going to market for me. I'm not going to have to do anything but write and kick back and sip champagne at my book signings. No, many agents today will not represent you if they don't think they can get a publisher to believe that they can sell your book. And of course, a publisher will not take on your book if they don't think they can sell your book. And they now believe that if you already have something of an author platform, the chances of selling your book are so much higher. So even if you're publishing conventionally, it is up to you to start building an author platform to demonstrate that you are a professional who's thinking about sales. And then if you're self-publishing, it is 100% up to you to sell your book. And that does require an author platform. It's devastating to me when I have these writers come to me. They'll contact me on my sign-up form, they'll give me a call, or they'll leave me a comment on my website or on my podcast. And they'll say, I wrote this book and I'm devastated because I haven't sold many copies. I let a couple of my friends know and my family know that I'd published it, and then crickets. Maybe I sold a few copies, gave a few copies away, and then it ended there. Let me tell you, this is a frequent occurrence. Writing a book is not one of those write it and they will come type of things. That just happens in the movies, or maybe it happened in the early 1900s when people didn't have Netflix and other distractions. But now you're competing against so many other entertainment options. And yes, there are still voracious readers out there, but there are lots of excellent authors out there. You need to differentiate yourself and stand out in a world where there are so many other options. And you are special. You are worthy of that. Your book is awesome. I want it to get out there. So today, let's officially talk about this author platform, what the heck it is, why you need one, which I think you're already starting to see why you need one, but how to build an author platform and how to deal with that icky feeling, because I know how embarrassing and awkward it is to push yourself, to put yourself out there, to keep advertising yourself and marketing yourself. It feels like you're such an egomaniac when you're doing that, and you feel like you're going to make your friends and family so sick of hearing about you and your book and you as an author. But these are some things that need to be done, and we're going to talk about how to do it so that it's less yucky and horrifying. If you're a writer dreaming of becoming a successful author, join me, writing coach Karena Akhavein, on the How to Be an Author podcast, your weekly source for writing information, inspiration, and motivation. Thank you so much for being here and joining me on the How to Be an Author podcast. This is where you get all the no BS writing tips from your writing coach, Karena Akhavein. I try to help you to demystify all of those things that are kind of scary about the writing and publishing process without making it overly complicated and without making you feel like you're dumb or like you can't do it, because that is the message that I have for you here, is that you are meant to publish this book of yours. You're meant to have a wonderful writing and publishing career, but there's some things that are non-negotiable. I just want to open your eyes to those things, because that fantasy, the one of the writer as this artiste who is toiling away with their trusty cup of coffee, and they're fighting with their characters, fighting with their muse. Once in a while, they're attending that wonderful champagne-fueled book signing I'm talking about all the time for that bestseller that they wrote. Well, there are these mysterious forces that are helping them to sell their book. That's a fantasy. That is a fantasy that I think is fun to fantasize about, but I honestly feel that it's destructive because it makes writers focus on the wrong thing. It makes writers think that their only job is to write a book and fight with the characters. Fighting with the characters and the coffee and all of that, that's true, of course. But there is so much business that goes into writing and publishing a book, and the sooner you realize that, the better. Honestly, if I were to start over again, I would literally start my author platform from day one. From day one, I wouldn't wait. Too many authors also wait until they have a book ready to go and they haven't built their platform yet. And that is wasting your time. Author platforms don't get built in a day. So I'm going to be telling you about the different steps that go into that. And they're simpler than you think. They really are, because in the most basic terms, an author platform is literally your ability to reach your ideal audience. So think about that. Reaching your ideal audience. Two components, right? Who's your audience, your ideal audience, and how do you as an author reach them? See how simple that is? Here's the other thing that I think really scares a lot of authors. They think, oh my God, there's so much pressure because not only do I need to build a platform, but I need to build a platform that's going to attract a gazillion people. And how do I do that? Because I don't have this huge community built in. How am I going to find that? Here's the thing. Your platform doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to have 1 million people in it. It just needs to have a small, highly engaged audience that really gets you. It's kind of like starting a cult, honestly. I've had some podcast episodes about starting a cult, and it kind of cracks me up because people think cult is negative. No, but a cult has people who are highly, highly engaged. And so a cult usually starts with just a few people who are absolutely rabid about the thing the cult leader has on offer. And they're rabid about it because it's something that actually improves their life, makes them feel part of something, makes them feel part of something that makes their life better or makes them feel good. So think like that. See, the cult analogy is just me thinking out of the box a little bit, and you need to do that too. As an author building your platform, you need to think out of the box to build a platform that truly reflects you, and not only you, but you as an author. But the you part is very important because the first thing I would do if I was starting over on an author platform is I would start with a personal brand. You're starting with a personal brand first. You're talking about you. You're making it this amazing experience. Because here's the thing, you can be good at so many things. You can write so many different books. You can have all these subjects you're interested in, all of that. But the common ground in all of that is you. You're the author. You're the person who's going to be creating these things. And that is what's going to fascinate your audience, your reader, all of that. That's where you start. So when I'm thinking about building a personal brand, I'm thinking, okay, how do I build that personal brand in a way that's not just me talking about me, super egotistical, super ego-driven, me. Nobody cares yet about you unless what you have on offer is making other people feel a certain way, right? So if you have a platform or a cause even that interests you, or something you're writing about that interests you, or some challenge that you've gone through that you think you can speak on, all of those are ingredients that are going to go into your personal brand, and they're ingredients that are going to help you to build your author platform. You don't want to be too scattered because this is about you as a writer and an author, but it also is about what you care about. So if you've got other things that you're writing about or speaking on that aren't necessarily your fiction work, that's going to go in your platform as well. So let's first of all start bringing up the different places where we're going to be focusing on to build this author platform. I'm going to be returning to these ideas because they're really important and I want it to sink in. But the minimal ingredients you're going to have are an author website, social media, and we'll go over what that means. You can have things like an account on Goodreads, you can have a blog, you can have a podcast, and then you can also be publishing or speaking in other places, whether that's in person or on other people's podcasts or at events. So think about all of those things just for a second. I'm just putting it there for now. And then another part, I think, of the author platform is your search engine optimization. And here's the other thing is that the more things you publish, the more things you do as an author, the more present you are online. And so a recommendation I always make to the writers that work with me is that I say that you should be aiming for 2 full pages, at least, of hits that cover you as a writer on Google. If you Google yourself, how many pages of results come up, you're going to be aiming for a minimum of 2. If you've got less than that, your platform is not established enough. Right? And remember that thing that I said about reminding all your friends that, you've got a book coming out and your family. And I've had a podcast where I talked about how your friends and family are not your audience. Now, it's true that they're not your audience, but heck, you should leverage them a little bit. Even if a fraction of them end up doing that, if you can get a review or a purchase from friends or family, use that. Don't feel bad. Another thing that you should do as well is that really take advantage of what technology can do for you. And we're going to be talking about that for a bit, but think about that Amazon algorithm. Think about the search engine optimization. Think about how you can make things that will have a huge reach, such as videos. You can do TikTok videos and reels on Instagram that are going to have a much higher reach than any little post could have. And in fact, I would say a bigger reach than a paid post. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit more as well. But let's rewind and go back to what is included in an author platform. And by the way, if you're really freaking out about this and you're like, okay, this is a really interesting podcast episode, but this is a lot and I don't have, the actual hands-on stuff that I can use to figure this one out and I really want a list and I want you to help me with it a little bit more, I've got an easy solution for you, which is my online course From Idea to Published in 6 months is coming out really soon. You're going to want to go to my website, get on that list to be the first to know when it launches, because it's going to be an A to Z how-to for publishing your book, including building a kick-ass author platform. So what's included in an author platform? Okay, the following list is not exhaustive, but here's some of the more common elements that make up a writer's platform. And I mentioned all of these earlier on, and now I'm going to do a deep dive on it. So the first element is definitely an author website. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that's a little crazy. That's going to take a lot of tech. Do I really need an author website? I'm so sorry. The answer is yes. The author website, think of it as the foundation of your author platform. Really, it's that important. Your author website is a central location for all the things that you do as an author and all the books that you publish. So it's something that you actually control, because think about it. You don't control social media that much. So you really want every single thing that you put out for your author platform to send people back to your website as the prime place where they're going to be getting information about you, your books, what you're publishing, what you have to say, what kind of events you're participating in. Think about that. So at the very minimum, your website's going to have an About You page or a contact page or a, this is me page, whatever you want to call it, something about you, who you are, what you stand for. You're going to want a section about your book or your books, along with links on where to buy them, because people sometimes, if they have too many extra steps on buying your book, they're not going to do it. They're going to put it on their to-do list and it'll never happen. But if there's a link right there, once they've read the kick-ass description of your book, because by the way, you should have a kick-ass description of your book on your website, but they can click there and they can buy your book really easily. On your website, you can also have your contact info, which is pretty crucial if somebody wants to get in touch with you, to invite you to an event or to say, hey, my book club is reading your book and can you weigh in and all that stuff. Because by the way, can I say, book clubs are a great way to build your platform as well. It's a great way to build your platform because if you participate in a book club, you're going to get everyone's email address. And that's, to me, when you talk about a website, that's the most important thing on the website. Really, in reality, it's the thing that's gathering people's email addresses for your email list. Because I was talking about how, social media is not really owned by you. It's not really controlled by you. But you know what you do own and control? Your email list. If you have a bunch of names that you can send things to, send that information, send the news that you've published something to, that is power. That's really fantastic. And we'll be talking more about how to gather those email addresses through your platform. Everything needs to be about that. That's why I'm saying about taking people from your social media to your website, to the lead magnet that gets them to give you your email address. And you have to do that in exchange for something valuable, right? You need to promise them something that your readers want. And this is where you have a little bit more than just saying, hey, I'm me and I wrote this book. The message is, hey, I'm me, I'm cool, I have something in common with you, and here's what I can give you that you want. Now, whether that's writing advice or bonus chapters for the book or a free podcast episode or even, a downloadable something fun, all of those things are great lead magnets to be gathering those email addresses from your potential audience and reader. Okay, now let's rewind to the website part about where you're worried about the tech. In this day and age, it is so easy to build a simple website. There are so many just shortcuts you can use. There's so much drag and drop. There's so many templates. There are things that will help you to build a professional website in an afternoon. There's zero excuse. I don't care how not techie you are. If you're a writer, you know how to use a word processor, and that's pretty much all you need to build your website. And honestly, the more skills you gather along the way, the more marketable and cool you are as a person, the more opportunities you have to do different things. And P.S., I hate to break it to you, but writing's not just about writing. It's about engaging new media and new tools to be able to put your story out there. So if you're just being left behind by technology, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to your ability to storytell to a larger audience. So consider that. Now let's talk social media. A lot of authors get really bummed out by this because, yes, I know it takes forever to grow a social media following. It's something that takes work. It takes time. And you're always told like, oh, are you writing a book? Stop getting distracted by social media. But the truth is, lots of people spend time procrastinating on social media. So if you want to get people's attention, those people's attention, the best place to be is on that social media, but not as a lurker, not as somebody who's consuming that stuff, but as somebody who's creating content. And yeah, it takes a ton of time. It takes consistency. It takes showing up, but it really can help you to build an engaged audience. So here's the thing. You don't want to be everywhere. The best thing to do is choose the one or two platforms that you actually enjoy using already and focus on growing your audience in those. So an engaged audience is better again than a large audience. So don't focus on those numbers so much, but do try to work on a lot of interaction. I think interaction is key because once you have somebody interacting with you, they're starting to see you as a real person. They're starting to see you as kind of a friend. They're starting to become a fan. And all of those things are really, really great. So in terms of which social media platforms you might want to be focusing on to build your author platform, I would say that for me, like Facebook is a little bit over, but I just automatically have posts from Instagram go to Facebook. So it's kind of a twofer. And again, reusing content and just kind of sharing your content everywhere is a great way to go. But I do have friends who have a huge engaged audience on Facebook pages or groups. And they have a really huge audience that's excited about what they have on offer. So just because this is something that's not working as well for me, and maybe it's not working for someone else, it could work well for you. So keep that in mind. Like, don't necessarily listen to everyone who's like, oh, this social media platform is over, or this social media platform is for kids. Think about what works for you. So speaking of social media platforms that are for kids, the platform that's been working best for me is TikTok, of all things. People told me like, oh my God, as a, near 50-year-old author, you're not going to get any traction on TikTok. It's for kids, this and that. But here's the truth. I have my biggest engaged platform on TikTok. I get most of my clients from TikTok. And it's been slow going, but in a year and some that I've been on TikTok, maybe a year and a half by now, I've grown to an audience of 60,000 followers. And it's possible that if you're listening to this podcast right now, you might have found me through TikTok. So don't just naturally knock TikTok. It actually works for a lot of people. The other thing that is great about TikTok is that once you've made a TikTok video, you can download that video and save it without the watermark and reuse it for your Facebook and for your Instagram Reels. Because here's what I've noticed about Instagram is that these days, Instagram is super not showing people posts that are just a photo. And even your paid posts are not getting that much reach, but the reels are still getting attention. I get thousands of views per reel when I never get those kinds of numbers with a simple post. So if you're reusing your TikTok content, that's really great. The great thing about being on video is that it creates this persona. People get really attached and engaged. They can really identify much more and relate to somebody that they see on video more than just a photograph of a flat lay of a couple books. Those are pretty, but people are kind of sick of those, I feel. But guess what? Some authors are totally kicking butt with that kind of post, with flat lays of their books or with their writing products and their notebooks and their pens, things like that. Some people have engaged audiences who are dying for more of that content. So just because I'm saying this doesn't work for me doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. Another thing that a lot of people talk about as being something that is great for evergreen content and for growing an engaged audience is Pinterest. Now, I am really trying hard this year to grow my Pinterest. I was very active on Pinterest for a while, but more kind of all over the place. And now I'm really trying to start to focus a lot more on showing up as an author and a writing coach on Pinterest. And it's something that has a lot of potential because your posts stick around for a long time. People save them, they refer back to them, they can forward them. So if you've been having even a little bit of success with Pinterest, or if you like hanging out on Pinterest, consider creating content on Pinterest as well. And if you have a podcast, you can be advertising your podcast on all of these different platforms. Pinterest probably being the best one if you have a podcast because you can link to it more easily. And actually, I can link to my podcast in Instagram stories. That works really well for me as well, but that's pretty crucial. Now let's talk about the podcast briefly. Are there a gazillion podcasts out there? Yup, there are. Are there a billion blogs out there? Yes, there are. But if you enjoy podcasting or blogging, you're going to find that having a podcast and show notes for that podcast and a blog that you can add to your website, link up to social media, put on Pinterest, all of that, you're going to find that that's going to bring more traffic to your site because search engine optimization. All of these things are going to send people to your site where they're hopefully going to sign up for your email list, and then you're going to be able to start to share news with them. So, okay, I talked several times about, this email list, and you're probably like, great, but what do I do with an email list? Do I just torture people and say, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book? No. When you have an email list, think about it as having a list of pen pals that you want to interest them. You want to give them value. You want to give them news that's interesting, not just, hey, I'm a writer, buy my book. You want to be giving them something that is inspirational, fun, funny, something they can relate to. So for me, when I have my email list and I have my messages that I send, and if you're on my email list, you receive emails from me probably about every week. On my emails, I try to write something inspirational. I try to give people a writing prompt. I try to give them some interesting news. I really try to make my emails well-rounded and have a story in them so that people can read it and be like, oh, that's fun. But I try to send emails that are going to be helpful to my specific audience. And that's the really important thing. Never forget who your audience is, because if you're doing things, if you're pushing in directions that don't resonate with your perfect audience or your ideal reader, then you're spending a lot of energy in the wrong direction. That's really important to know as well. So define that target audience. You might want to check out the podcast episode on defining that audience avatar or that reader avatar, because that's so crucial. Not only do you know what they like to read, but you know kind of who they are, how old they are, where they hang out, what they believe, what they want, what bothers them, what they hope for. That's super important. It really helps you to build this clear and consistent brand. Because as a published author, you are officially going to become an authorpreneur, as I call it. You're a business. It's time for you to start thinking of yourself as not only a person, not only a persona, but a business. And think about your message. Think about your branding. Think about how everything you say and put out there resonates with your target audience in terms of the messaging, the style, the format, and the location, right? That's really important, because if there's a disconnect between your social media platform, your blog, your podcast, and what's on your website, that audience is going to feel that they're confused and they're like, I don't know if this speaks to me. So that's really important. And also when you're putting out this content, be it on social media, on your blog, on your podcast, on your email list, try to have a schedule. Try to have a calendar. I think that's really, really important, because you want people to subconsciously start to look forward to getting some news from you, getting some content from you. You want it to be something they can count on. You want to be there for them, because it's really important. It's being there for people. So if it helps you to have a tool that schedules your social media, that's going to be really great. Right? And if you can just write down on your calendar that you need to have your podcast come out certain days, your blog come out certain days, and your emails go out certain days, that really helps as well. And believe me, this all adds up, right? The more content you have out there, the more posts you have out there, the more podcast episodes, the more blogs, the more books, the more articles, the more publications in your niche, the more likely you are to one day reach that ideal reader and keep gaining more traffic that's going to your site. That's really crucial. Little by little, you're going to look one day and be like, wow, I had 0 people on my platform and now I have a ton. And by the way, the bigger your platform is, the more you're going to be able to get these speaking engagements, the more likely you are to have your book published, the more likely you are to be asked to be a resident expert on something, or to be a guest on a podcast or on a blog, or to be invited to a book club, or to participate in some kind of a, book retreat. All of those things are amazing. And those things happen, they build on themselves. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just take a deep breath, because this is all possible to build little by little building blocks to build that platform, one piece at a time. All you have to do is start today, and start small. And if you're seeing that things are totally not working, kind of readjust, but never quit. Keep going, because this platform is going to pay off in so many ways for you. And if you haven't started yet and you're starting today, I'm so excited for you, because you're going to see what a huge change this is going to be in your writing and publishing career, to be building this community and this platform. I hope I took all of the mystery out of it for you. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to me, book a 15-minute chat. I can help you out, or ask me a question on my TikTok, ask me a question on my email list, send me an email, or take that course of mine that's going to tell you A to Z what you need to do to build a really healthy, beautiful platform, along with writing prompts that are going to get you started, workbook exercises that are going to get you to figure out those simple things that you need to have a really awesome, strong platform that you can be standing on, so that you can be head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to being that professional writer that you want to be. That's it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look very much forward to being with you next time on the How to Be an Author podcast. If you have any pressing writing-related questions, or would like to be featured on the How to Be an Author podcast, please feel free to reach out on my website, creativeandwritingcoach.com.